Okay, everybody, just stop what you were doing for a second. Put down the coffee, pause the treadmill, whatever. Check your watch. Check the calendar on the wall. It is January 21st, 2026. Do you realize the magnitude of today? We are officially less than 5 months away from the absolute biggest, most sprawling, most chaotic sporting event in human history.
It is genuinely creeping up on us, isn't it? You spend years talking about it in the abstract, and then suddenly, boom, it's right there on the horizon.
It is right around the corner. And look, today we are not just doing the usual hype session. We aren't just reading off a list of stadiums and telling you to buy a jersey. We are doing a proper deep dive into the actual roadmap. We have the official documents in front of us, the full match schedule and fixtures for the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
And honestly, looking at the stack of papers on the desk, calling it a schedule feels like a massive understatement. It reads more like a military campaign or a continental battle plan than a sports tournament.
Completely. So, the mission for this deep dive is simple. We need to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this thing. Because when you actually look at the data, and we've crunched the numbers from the source material, this is a logistical behemoth. It is monstrous. But before we get into who plays whom in Group L, yes, there's a Group L. Give us the aha moment. What is the fundamental shift here?
The headline is this: you need to reset your operating system for what a World Cup is. If you grew up watching the 32-team format, forget it. Delete that mental model. This is the first ever 48-team tournament. That expansion gives us a staggering 104 matches.
104 matches. I mean, just pause on that number. That is a ridiculous amount of football.
It's not just a tournament anymore, it's an endurance test. It's a marathon for the players, the logistics teams, and frankly for the fans trying to keep up with it all.
So let's unpack this new landscape. We have the source material right here, the full fixture list. Let's start with the structure. Talk to me about the geometry of this tournament, because 48 teams breaks the old bracket, right?
It completely shatters the old bracket. In the past, you had 8 neat groups, A through H, simple. You could memorize it. Now, we are looking at 12 groups. We are going all the way from Group A through Group L.
We're going to Group L. That sounds like we're organizing a corporate convention, not a cup.
It feels that way. And because of that volume, the timeline has stretched significantly. According to the official schedule, the tournament kicks off on June 11 and runs all the way to July 19th, 2026. That is 39 days. Nearly 6 weeks of competition.
And the other layer of complexity here, and this is something the sources really highlight, is the geography. We aren't just sitting in one city or even one country. We have to talk about the tri-hosting duty.
Right. This is unprecedented. We have the United States, Canada, and Mexico sharing the load. 3
massive nations. This isn't Qatar where you can take a metro to the next stadium.
Exactly. And this is where the deeper insight comes in. When you look at 104 matches spread across a continent, you have to think about the physiological toll. We aren't just talking about playing 90 minutes of football. We are talking about travel fatigue, changing time zones, and drastically different climates. You could be playing in the crushing humidity of Miami one week and the dry heat of Monterey or the altitude of Mexico City the next.
That's a great point. It's not just, can you run for 90 minutes? It's, can you recover from a 6-hour flight and a 3-hour time difference in 4 days?
Precisely. It turns the medical staff, the nutritionists, and the travel coordinators into key players. The team that wins this won't just be the best at kicking a ball, they'll be the best at logistics, recovery, and sleep management.
Okay, so that's the macro view. 48 teams, 3 countries, 6 weeks of chaos. Let's get into the weeds. I want to talk about the opening salvos. June 11th, 2026. Where does the ball actually start rolling?
It begins exactly where a tournament of this magnitude should begin, steeped in history. The very first match listed on the schedule is Mexico versus South Africa.
And the venue?
The historic Estadio Azteca in Mexico City.
Oh, man. Just picture that atmosphere. I mean, Azteca is sacred ground. It's where Pele won in 70. It's where Maradona did the hand of God and the goal of the century in 86.
It is the cathedral of North American soccer, but there is a technical aspect here, too, that we need to mention, the altitude. Mexico City sits at over 7,200 feet. For South Africa coming in, that opening match isn't just about the noise or the hostile crowd, it's about oxygen. The ball flies differently there, it's faster, lighter, and the lungs burn faster. It's a massive home field advantage for Mexico to kick things off.
That's going to be deafening. But what's interesting is how quickly the schedule pivots. It doesn't linger in Mexico.
No, it moves fast. The schedule makers were very strategic here. They wanted all 3 host nations to play their opening fixtures on home soil immediately to activate the entire continent. So the very next day, June 12, we see the North American debuts for the other two hosts.
So we head north.
We do. Canada plays their opener in Toronto.
And who do they get?
Well, according to the source, they are playing the UEFA playoff, a winner.
The dreaded TBD. Let's clarify that for the listener because that can be confusing. We have the schedule, but we don't have all the names yet.
Correct. The qualifying paths in Europe and the Interconfederation playoffs mean there are still a few slots to be decided. So Canada knows when and where they play, but they are preparing for a variable. It's tricky for a coach. You can't fully scout your opponent yet because you don't know who it is.
That adds a layer of anxiety, I'm sure. But on that same day, June 12, we also have the USA entering the chat.
Yes, USA versus Paraguay in Los Angeles.
That feels like a tricky fixture. Paraguay is never a pushover.
Never. South American teams, CONMEBOL teams, are known for that grit, that physicality. They know how to disrupt a game. For the U.S., playing in L.A. is huge. You'll have the celebrity culture, the glitz, the Hollywood vibe. But on the pitch, Paraguay offers a very stern physical test right out of the gate. It's not a warm-up game by any stretch.
And just look at the geography we covered in 24 hours. June 11 in Mexico City, June 12 in Toronto and Los Angeles. We are spanning the entire continent instantly.
It drives home that point about scale. This isn't a compact tournament. This is a continental takeover.
Okay, so the hosts have made their bow. Now we enter what I'm calling the group stage gauntlet. I was looking at the dates from June 13 to June 17 in the source, and it is just a daily feast of matches.
It's relentless. Once those openers are done, the floodgates open. We're talking 3-4 games a day.
Let's pick out some of the specific narratives from the source, because the diversity of matchups here is wild. Let's look at June 13. What stands out to you?
Well, you have Qatar versus Switzerland in San Francisco, which is an interesting clash of styles Asian champions versus European solidity. But the one that really catches my eye on June 13 is in Group C.
I think I know where you're going. Brazil versus Morocco.
In New York, New Jersey.
That is a massive clash. You have the Sangha flair of Brazil against Morocco. And let's remember, Morocco isn't just some team anymore. They were the shock semifinalists in 2022. They made history.
Exactly. They broke the glass ceiling for African football. They are disciplined, gritty, and incredibly spirited. Putting them against Brazil, who are perennial favorites, creates this amazing friction, flair versus structure, and hosting it in the New York area. Think about the demographics. The diaspora populations for both nations in the Northeast are huge. The crowd is going to be electric. It won't feel like a neutral ground.
Feels like a headline fixture very early in the tournament.
Yeah.
And on that same day, June 13, we have a bit of a romantic underdog story potentially brewing in Boston. Haiti versus Scotland.
Also, Group C. It's great to see teams like Haiti on this stage. This is what the 48-team expansion is about, giving nations that usually sit on the bubble a chance to shine. And Scotland, well, the Tartan Army taking over Boston, given the Irish and Scottish heritage in that city, that is going to be a party.
Oh, the pubs in Boston won't know what hit them. Rounding out that day, we have Australia versus the UEFA Playoff C winner in Vancouver for Group D. But let's move to June 14th. We are entering Group E and F territory.
We are. We have Germany versus Curaçao in Houston.
Talk about a David and Goliath setup. Germany, the four-time champions, versus Curaçao, a tiny island nation in the Caribbean.
It's the beauty of the World Cup in a nutshell. For the players of Curaçao, many of whom play in the Dutch leagues, this is the match of their lives. They are playing for national pride on the biggest stage imaginable. For Germany, it's a game where they have everything to lose. If they don't win 5-0, the press destroys them. It's a pressure cooker.
High pressure for the Germans. But then, look at the Group F matchup in Dallas on June 14th. Netherlands versus Japan.
Ooh, now that is one for the purists.
Why is that?
Because both cultures prioritize technical ability, movement, and precision. The Dutch invented total football. Japan has refined a high-technical, quick-passing game that is beautiful to watch, seeing them face off on a fast track in Dallas. Statistically, that could be one of the highest ball-and-play matches of the tournament. Very little time wasting, just pure football IQ on display.
I love that. Also on June 14, we've got Ivory Coast versus Ecuador in Philadelphia.
Two very physical, fast teams. Group E is shaping up to be very competitive. That's a game where the athleticism is going to be off the charts.
All right, keep the pace moving. June 15th, the marathon continues. We're looking at Group H and G.
We start in Atlanta with Spain versus Cape Verde. Again, the expansion allows nations like Cape Verde, another island nation punching above its weight, to test themselves against the possession masters of Spain.
And then we head to the Pacific Northwest. Seattle, Belgium versus Egypt.
This is a big one. You're potentially looking at some of the biggest stars in the world clashing here. If the squads are what we expect, you have the individual talent of the Egyptian king Mohamed Salah going up against the Belgian machine.
Seattle has such a rich soccer culture, too. That stadium gets loud.
It does. And the day wraps up with Saudi Arabia versus Uruguay in Miami and Iran versus New Zealand in Los Angeles. Notice the spread again. Miami to LA. The tournament is operating on both coasts simultaneously. As a TV viewer, you are waking up to games and going to bed with games.
It's dizzying. Okay, June 16. What's on the menu?
Well, in Group I, playing in New York, New Jersey, we have France versus Senegal.
Oh, wow. Now that is loaded.
That is a matchup heavy with history, politics, and emotion.
We have to mention 2002.
You have to. It's the ghost in the room. The opening game of the 2002 World Cup, Senegal, the debutantes, shocked the world by beating France, the defending champions, 1-0. It's one of the greatest upsets in history.
And beyond that, the connections between French and Senegalese football are deep. So many players have dual heritage. They play in the same leagues. They grew up in the same academies. It's almost a derby.
Exactly. It's going to be incredibly hard fought. That feels like a knockout game sitting right there in the group stage. The intensity will be through the roof.
Also on June 16, we have Argentina versus Algeria in Kansas City for Group J. Seeing Argentina in Kansas City, that is just cool. I love seeing the world game in the American heartland.
It shows the reach. You aren't just hitting the coastal elites. You're bringing the world champions to the Midwest. It's great for the growth of the game.
Finally, let's close out this opening week snapshot with June 17. Because looking at the schedule, there is a heavyweight fight in Dallas.
Group L, England versus Croatia.
That is the one.
That's the rematch of the 2018 semifinal, where Croatia broke English hearts in extra time. European giants going head-to-head in Texas.
That is going to be must-watch TV. And filling out June 17th, we have Portugal versus the Intercontinental Playoff one winner in Houston, Ghana versus Panama in Toronto, and Uzbekistan versus Colombia back in Mexico City.
So just pause for a second and think about what we just listed. In the span of 5 days, less than a week, we've bounced from Mexico City to Vancouver, New York to LA, watching teams from literally every corner of the globe.
It's a lot of process, and that's just the first week.
And that's what I mean by the daily feast. But remember, with 48 teams, the group stage keeps going. The source notes that group stage fixtures run all the way through June 27. It is a long haul.
So we've talked about the fun of it, but let's look at the implication. What does this density mean for the squads?
It means depth is king. You cannot play the same 11 players every 4 days across 4 time zones for 6 weeks. In previous World Cups, you might have a first XI that played every minute. Here, coaches are going to have to rotate. The medical staff is going to be just as important as the strikers. If you don't have a deep bench, you'll burn out before the quarterfinals.
Survival of the fittest, literally. And speaking of survival, let's talk about how you actually get out of this group stage. Because with 48 teams, the math has changed, hasn't it?
It has. And this is the new variable that everyone, fans, pundits, coaches, trying to figure out. We now have a round of 32.
A round of 32. We've never had that before.
Never. In the 32-team era, if you got out of the group, you went straight to the round of 16. Now we have an entire extra layer of knockout intensity inserted into the bracket. According to the schedule, this round runs from June 28 to July 3.
And looking at the numbers, 16 matches in just 6 days.
Correct. It is going to be absolute chaos. It's essentially a second tournament tacked onto the middle. But here's the really interesting part for the listener. How do you actually qualify for this round? It's not just the top 2 anymore.
Right, because the math doesn't work. We have 12 groups. If top 2 advance, that's 24 teams. We need 32 to make a bracket work.
Exactly. So obviously the group winners and runners-up advance. That gets you your 24. To fill the remaining 8 spots, the best third-place teams also punch a ticket to the knockouts.
Best third placed. Okay, explain the impact of that. Does that make the group stage more boring or more exciting?
It's a double-edged sword, but generally it keeps the group stage competitive until the very last minute. Think about it. In the old format, if you lost your first 2 games, you were usually out. It was a dead rubber game. Now, even if you lose 2, if you can pull off a big win in the 3rd game, you might sneak in as one of those best third-place teams. Everyone is alive until the end.
I see. So it eliminates those meaningless games. But doesn't it also mean mediocre teams can scrape through?
That's the criticism. You could technically win 0 games, draw all 3, and maybe still advance. But the flip side is, to win the World Cup, a team now has to navigate an extra knockout game.
That attrition rate again.
You have to win the round of 32, then the round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals. It's a longer road. You need to win one more game than Pele or Zidane ever had to lift the trophy.
Let's map out that traditional path just so everyone knows when to book off work.
So after the chaos of the round of 32, we settle into the more familiar rhythm. The round of 16 runs from July 4 to July 7. That's 8 matches.
Then the quarterfinals.
July 9 through July 11, 4 matches.
Semifinals.
July 14 and 15, 2 matches to decide who goes to the big show.
And don't forget, the game nobody wants to play in, but everyone watches, the third-place playoff.
That's on July 18th. It's usually a fun game, lots of goals because the pressure is off.
Which leads us, finally, to the grand finale, the destination everyone is aiming for.
July 19th, 2026.
The venue.
The source lists it as MetLife Stadium, New York, New Jersey Stadium.
So it all ends in the Big Apple well, across the river in Jersey, technically. But just picture that context. July 19th, the culmination of 39 days of football.
Think about the journey to get there. The team that lifts the trophy on July 19 will have traveled thousands of miles, likely crossed multiple time zones, played more minutes than any champion in history, and survived a bracket twice the size of what we saw in the 90s.
It is truly a marathon. And there is something poetic about it ending in New York, the city that never sleeps, after a tournament that will probably keep half the world awake for a month.
It fits the scale. Biggest city for the biggest tournament.
So let's wrap this up. We're looking at 104 matches, 3 countries, 1 winner. What is the one thing sticking in your mind as we look at this schedule? What's the unknown for you?
For me, it's those TBD slots we mentioned, the playoff winners. Even though this schedule is set in stone, the cast is not fully known yet. We know we have Canada versus playoff winner A or Australia versus playoff winner C. It adds this element of mystery. We have the map, but we don't know all the travelers yet. And some of those intercontinental playoff teams could be dangerous wildcards.
That's a great point. The puzzle isn't quite finished.
Exact.
Here's the question I want to leave you with today. We've talked about the scale. We've talked about the best third-place teams advancing. We've talked about the sheer volume of the round of 32.
It's a lot of changes.
It is. So I want the listener to consider this. Does this new format, this massive, sprawling, forgiving format where third place can get you through, does it reward excellence? Or does it simply reward endurance and squad depth? Is bigger actually better for the quality of the game, or are we just diluting the drama with sheer volume? Are we turning the World Cup into content rather than competition?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. Will the 100th match feel as special as the 10th? We're going to find out.
Something to mull over as we count down the days to June 11. Thanks for diving in with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one.